So when did you change? Not when did something happen to you, not when your circumstances shifted. When did you change? The actual you, the interior version, in a way that was permanent. It's interesting. Most people can't answer that question. And that's okay, because the transformation that changes over time isn't a moment. It's a process that's so slow and so interior that you can only recognize it when you look backwards. And that's exactly how this book came to be. I didn't see it until almost years later, years and lots of pain later. I didn't even see it. And that's territory 5. And Paul is our companion for it. Listen, Paul, who used to be Saul of Tarsus, was literally the most dangerous man in the early church. And it wasn't even because he was evil. It was because he was so capable. He had the best education available. He had institutional authority. He had theological certainty. He was the last guy anyone would pick for transformation. He, he wasn't in the storm looking for God. He was hunting down the people that loved Jesus. And the craziest part is that he was convinced that he was doing God's work. And then the road to Damascus, blinding light, blinding light, a voice, and then complete blindness for 3 days. And then a man named Ananias sent to restore his sight. And in those 3 days, Saul became Paul. But the transformation was not complete in those 3 days. It took years. Years he was in Arabia, years in obscurity. It took years of him working out what was happening in his own soul and what happened to him on that road. You could imagine if that happened, a blinding light, a voice, and then you're blind for 3 days, and then your sight comes back. You imagine how long it would take to sort through that in your own heart and in your own mind, especially in a time where there wasn't, like, let's say, like technology and things like there are today. That is amazing. So that gap right there, the moment between that encounter on the Damascus road and the full transformation, that is the moment. That is where you are. That is territory 5. That is the inner transformation. And this is where Romans 12:2 comes in. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And I gotta look this up. The word that Paul uses, the Greek word for transformed, is, I'm just gonna pronounce this wrong, metamorphoo is what it looks like to me. I probably pronounced that wrong. It's the same root as metamorphosis. And that is the biological process where a caterpillar turns into a butterfly. It is literally complete transformation. And here's what's so important about this process, metamorphosis. The caterpillar doesn't know it's becoming a butterfly. It's going into this cocoon. What's the cocoon called? Inside the chrysalis. The caterpillar doesn't partially transform. It completely goes away. It completely dissolves. Its entire cellular structure breaks down into undifferentiated biological material, and then it reforms into something completely new. That is mind-blowing. And that dissolution is territory 5. You're not partially transformed. You're in the process of complete reformation. And that sometimes feels like being pulled apart, at least on the inside. And that feeling is not failure. It's the process. And in territory 5, there's 3 specific things that need to dissolve for the transformation to take place. First one is the old identity, who you were before the descent, defined by achievement, role, relationships, status, all the things that we tend to cling to define ourselves. Those things can no longer fully hold you. And that's not a loss. That's the caterpillar structure releasing. You're literally becoming something the old container couldn't contain. This is the illumination piece. They're just things that you just couldn't even see. The second thing that must dissolve is the old narrative, the stories we tell ourselves. The why things happen, what they meant, who was responsible. All these things get rewritten in territory 5. It's not revised, but rewritten. And that's such a cool thing. The facts, they stay the same, but the meaning changes dramatically. And the third one that's got to dissolve is the old fear, the thing you were so afraid of losing. And listen, you may have lost it already, or you may be losing your grip on it right now. Either way, territory 5 is where the fear stops running the room. And it's not because you stop feeling it. It's because it stops being the determining factor. Listen, horizontally, transformation is improvement. Better habits, better mindset, better performance. It's literally the same person just upgraded. But vertically, transformation is categorically completely different. It's not improvement, it's metamorphosis. Literally a creature that crawled along the ground into a creature that can fly. The horizontal life tries to fix what's broken. The vertical life allows what's broken to become something different. Think about it. Paul didn't become a better version of Saul. He became Paul. I mean, the persecution of Christians became planting churches. These are diametrically opposed. And the theological certainty that made him dangerous became the theological depth that made him vital. Nothing was wasted, not 1 year of the wrong life. Every piece of it was preparation for the transformation. And I would say that our lives, your lives, is the exact same way. It is all part of the story, it is all part of the sequence. You could not be who you are without every single thing before today. And this is the part of the curve where it becomes visible to other people. Even when it doesn't quite feel it on the inside, it becomes visible because it is a change. It's a dramatic transformation. And I want to tell you what Territory 5 feels like, because it's hard for someone to tell you what it feels like in plain words. A lot of times it feels like confusion about who you are. Things your things start to feel loose. Like these things that used to define you they feel looser, like there's like room to maneuver in there. Have you ever lost like 10 pounds or 20 pounds and your clothes just they don't quite fit anymore? And it's not that they don't work as clothes, but they're just not the same. This is kind of what's happening here. This is a weird one. Like relationships that felt easy may start to feel a little bit more complicated. Conversations that you could have without thinking now seem to take a little bit more work. I think of this as like the surface conversations, the ones that kind of don't really go anywhere, seem to be harder. It's like you're seeking more depth in your relationships. That disorientation is not a problem. It's a signal. It's that signal of the dissolution that's happening. For that caterpillar, as things start to separate and change, things are changing, not for the worse, for the better. It's literally the old structure that we operated through releasing so something new can come about. And here's the hard part: is it gets kind of scary to become an adult and to achieve things in life and have status and identity and all these things, and then all of a sudden to admit that things are becoming new and you don't really feel as familiar with things. It's our tendency to want to reach back to the familiar, like an old identity, an old pattern, an old way of managing the world. Those are the things that are comfortable to us. It's really interesting when this happened for us, and when this whole cancer thing kind of started, we were both trying to solve it. We were both trying to figure it out, and Rafi was trying to figure out, reading all the medical books and trying to figure out what was wrong and what was happening and best treatment plans and whether to go this route or that route. And it was just constant trying to find the solution. And I was doing kind of the opposite, not the opposite of that, but I was doing trying to find a solution in my own way, trying to figure out how can I pay for this? How can we make this work? And we were both just running ourselves ragged. And but then there came this time where we kind of stopped all those things. And there was this thing that was this inner transformation. It's this illumination that I'm talking about. It's this feeling of a momentum that we were not generating it, but it was happening, and answers were showing up, solutions that we couldn't find. They were starting to show up, and it was not knowing about this structure when we were there. It was disorienting, and we were afraid, but things were happening, and we couldn't deny the solution showing up, and something was working, and it was just hard to define, but it kept happening. And there was no rushing it. This season for us was almost 5 years, and it was tumultuous. We just didn't know. It was so disoriented all the time. We were so disoriented, especially in the beginning. And then as it kind of moved forward, there was this harmony we found inside the moment. We didn't have the answers, but seemingly something had shifted in us and something had changed, and it was, you could see it. It was just this beautiful transformation. And I mean, and what came out the other side, there's just neither one of us could have designed it or been responsible for it, or the transformation that took place for us was not something we could do in our own power, because believe me, we were trying everything and nothing was working. And it was in the surrender, it was in the alignment that things started to change, and the sequence kept seeking the next number. You know, it's interesting, these words that Paul says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. He's specific about the location of the renewing. It's our mind. It's not our circumstances. It's not the things that make us feel uncomfortable. It's not the behaviors. It is the mind. And the renewal of the mind is not positive thinking. It's not affirmations. It's the slow orientation of what you believe is true about God, about yourself, about what this season means. You know, there are 3 beliefs that transform in Territory 5. First one, from God is punishing me to God is preparing me. Same circumstances, different framework. That one shift changes everything downstream. From I am what I lost to I am what I am becoming. You know, identity was never located in what was being taken. It's what is being built. From this suffering is interrupting my life to this suffering is load bearing. The weight isn't on top of your life. It's underneath it. It's holding up something you can't see yet. You know, these aren't easy shifts, and they're not achieved by deciding to believe them. They're achieved by staying in the territory long enough to have them come to be, to let the renewing happen. How long does Territory 5 take? Paul spent 3 years in Arabia after Damascus before he went to Jerusalem. 3 years of working out what happened to him on that road in obscurity. This is before any of the letters, before any of the churches. It's 3 years by himself. Transformation in private. For us, as I told you, our journey, you know, while Raph was here, was 4.5 years. My journey was longer than that. Listen, I don't know how long your Territory 5 takes, but I can tell you one thing. The sequence, the Fibonacci sequence, does not skip numbers. You simply can't get to 55 unless you go through 34. You can't get to 34 unless you go through 21. You just can't do it. It doesn't skip numbers. Listen, the transformation takes time. Rushing it produces the horizontal version, which is called improvement, not metamorphosis. Think about it like a butterfly. The chrysalis can't open early. You can't force the butterfly faster to develop, and it won't be able to fly. Okay, I got one practice for you this week, just one. Write one sentence completing this one prompt. The prompt is this: I am no longer someone who... Now, it's not what you're becoming, it's what you're leaving behind. The luggage that you're setting down. Name the specific thing. The fear, the narrative, the identity, the pattern, the thing that Territory 5 is dissolving in you. And then underneath it, write, what comes next is being formed. You don't have to know what it is. Just want you to key your mind into knowing that something new is coming from this. Listen, what made Paul's transformation complete was not the Damascus road. It was amazing. That's not what it was. It was what he chose to do with it. He didn't perform this transformation. He went and he worked it out. And when he emerged, he wasn't, like I said, the improved Saul. He was something completely different the world had never seen before. And in this verse, I got to read it to you. It's Philippians 4:1. I have learned in whatsoever state I am, therewith to be content. And the word learned is very important there. It's not a gift. It's not a feeling. He's learned it. It's something he's applying. It's a discipline. There's been difficulty. He's learned something through a discipline. And that's really important. And listen, Paul is the companion here, not because he has the answer. It was because he stayed in the chrysalis long enough to find that transformation, long enough to become someone who could fly. Listen, Territory 5 doesn't ask you to perform your transformation. It asks you to trust it. The dissolution is not the end, it's the process. And the confusion is not you failing. It's that cellular reformation that's happening beneath the surface. Listen, you're becoming something you can't fully see yet. And that is so not a problem. That is how metamorphosis works. You're always at the tip of the spear. The tip of the spear is the sharpest for a reason, because it's got to go through some stuff. And that's where you're at. Stay in the chrysalis. Don't rush the emergence. What comes out on the other side of this territory was what you always were becoming. It's always what your sequence was seeking. Next week, we're going on to territory 6, channeling fuel. And that is where Joseph is our companion. And that's the moment pain stops being something that happened to you and starts being something that's working for you. In his case, 13 years of injustice that became the exact preparation for the assignment. Guys, if you're enjoying these videos, subscribe. A new one comes out every week. And if you haven't taken the Significant Score quiz, go do that at thesignificantscore.com. It is your compass inside the moment to realign yourself with the direction you want to go. Thanks for being here. I'm so excited. I'll talk to you next week.